It's on. We're on. Happy New Year's Eve to you. We're glad you could join us. Alan recently introduced me as a friend that he's known for 1,000,000 years. And there's some truth to that. It was the Neolithic era. And so, interestingly enough, and perhaps I've told you this, Alan, and perhaps I haven't, but when I was writing this opening song, we're going to open with an original, get it out of the way, and then get to the familiar favorites of yours and ours. And when I wrote this song, I was writing this song as a kind of Eagles knockoff. So I had, she's a ride, and everybody knows it now, and everybody's hanging on. She's a ride. And yep. I thought, WWAD, what would Alan do?
Alan would find a clever way to destroy a really nice song.
Yeah. No, I thought, no, he's not going to stay in the key of G there. So, we got Jamie Flynn in the house. So, yo, and Happy New Year's Eve to you, Jamie. And I'm going to invite anyone who's joining us to say hi in the chat room. We'd like to know you're there.
Flynn.
If you have a request, just write it on a PayPal tip. No, and Marsha's here. Haven't seen you in a while, Marsha. It's good to see you again. So glad. Marsha has an adult beverage in hand. If you want to pop the champagne corks early and have a cocktail with us, we're fueled by Pete's Coffee and bottled water tonight to keep our voices working.
This was the gift Chip gave me, the Pete's Coffee right here.
Jim and Paula are here.
Beautiful song.
And you guys are familiar with the great American short story, The Gift of the Magi. Well, Alan brought me a pound of Pete's Major Dickinson's blend, and I gave him a pound of Pete's. And
fortunately, the one he gave me is better.
We could have just said, just buy yourself a Pete's, but it's the thought.
His has a bow on it, so his gift is better. It's prettier.
Yeah. Okay. A Chip Murgott original that was influenced by Alan, and it goes like this. It's why people hang around. She is never alone. There is no way out. She takes them where they've never been, yeah. They take her and take her again. It's a hard way down. She's a ride, and everybody knows it now. And everybody comes around. She's a ride. She's a ride. If you're learning from your past mistakes, you'll avoid the runaround. You might find your place. I'm watching from the outside, but there isn't any more room. I'm just wasting time, yeah. She's a ride, and everybody knows it now. And everybody's hanging on. She's a ride. She's a ride. I roll with the rock and roll. I left when it took control. I go where I have to go. hanging on. Yeah. She's right. She's right. She's right. I don't know why. She's right.
The song was called "She's a Ride."
Where was last night? We had a ball coming back from my sister's house. We tuned into Sirius Radio, and Jeremy Clyde of Chad and Jeremy was hosting a show. What a lovely man. I had dinner with him once out in Lancaster, and I was well in my late 50s, I'm guessing, and I was gushing like a fanboy, you know. Oh, The Ark, it's one of the greatest albums ever made. And he just kind of coolly removed himself from that and sat there kind of eating Lancaster food. You know, there was nothing on the menu he could eat in Lancaster. He had a green salad. And he just went, well, our opinion of that album isn't really as high as yours. You know, it was like Chad's favorite expression was "hold your horses."
Yeah.
So he told me, Chad Stewart said to me about it, hold your horses. Wait a minute. You know, before you give me another compliment, just let me tell you that was a nightmare, that album, whatever. Okay. Brian's here. Happy New Year to you, Brian. Good to see you. We want to remind you that we do have a little suggested donation situation tonight on New Year's Eve. And where is it? I'm going to put it right here. There's a thing up top. I have to hit enter, excuse me. But it's the PayPal link right there. And we have a suggested donation tonight of a minimum donation of $10. Thanks in advance for your generosity. Alan, in our travels, hello, bro, Scott. My brother-in-law, Scott Orthy, who is near and dear to me, is in the house. And and we've played so many gigs, countless gigs. I wrote a song for your 50th birthday party called Harmony. I've got that in the archive somewhere. I'll dig it up. And that song was basically about the great harmony we've had, not only musically, but as friends. And we've really never had a bad gig. I mean, we had a couple of
We tried, but it just didn't happen.
We had a couple of little moments, but
Try to be bad, good things happen anyway.
yeah. But we played at Rolf's one New Year's Eve, you know, and that went okay. I remember the basic rhythm section of Dave Knight and the Crawlers were there that night. Alan, of course, plays Paul McCartney in Beatlemania all over the world. He just got back from Europe, and he played McCartney on Broadway for 400 performances at the beautiful Winter Garden Theater. And you had plenty of vivid experiences on that stage, including the time that a girl jumped up on stage in a jumpsuit, a one-piece jumpsuit, and when you turned away and turned back to her, she was stark naked. She just stepped out of the jumpsuit, and the poor stagehands had to go and kind of try to contain her.
Those poor stagehands.
So yes, we are going to do some Beatles songs. There was something I had in mind. Let's do a song, and then we'll talk more. Let's do Norwegian Wood, and you know, a dear friend of mine, Jimmy Cross, gave me the gift of the McCartney book that he wrote with Paul Muldoon of Princeton, New Jersey. on all his songs, or at least a good amount of them, and they annotated them all and talked about them all.
I love to tell the story about the wonderful and important rivalry between the Beach Boys and the Beatles. Now the Beatles, knew the Beach Boys as like all about surfing and hot rods, but all of a sudden the Beach Boys started changing their tune. They started writing the song "Help Me, Rhonda." It was the Beach Boys album called "Today," and that was the one where the Beatles took notice. And the Beatles said, we've got to break out of our formula as well, and that influenced the Rubber Soul album a lot.
Yeah.
So Rubber Soul was a real departure for the Beatles, and as you know, Norwegian Wood is a great example of that. And then from there, the Beach Boys heard Rubber Soul and says, we've got to respond to that, and then they did Pet Sounds.
Pet Sounds was indirect.
And then the Beatles heard that and how to respond to that. They built up
yeah.
the Sgt. Pepper. It was just, all this music that, when you think about it, would not have happened had they not been in competition with each other. It's just so,
and
such
this
a
friendly
wonderful-
rivalry.
Exactly.
And so in the book, and Luann's here, and possibly Gary, and Annie's here, and she's in the next room. George Eckelman is here. George, we've been out of touch. Good to see you. Bob Cole is here. Glad that you guys could make it. Bob and I have been enjoying the classic cuts of Peter, Paul, and Mary recently, which influenced everybody. James Taylor, Bonnie Raitt said that she learned a lot of her guitar playing off of listening to Peter, Paul, and Mary, where Peter was on one speaker, Paul's on the other. Anyway, let's do this song. And the last comment I have is that Paul McCartney said in the book, finally he put it to rest. He goes, yes, this song is about an arsonist, and he sets fire to the girl's apartment in the last verse. So, I've had people scoff at me when I've told them, oh, no, Chip, you're reading too much into it. But McCartney supports that idea. So listen to it in that light. It goes like this. I say she once had me. She showed me her room. Isn't it good? Norwegian wood. She asked me to stay and she told me to sit anywhere. So I looked around and I noticed there wasn't a chair. On the rug, biding my time, drinking her wine. We talked until 2, and then she said, it's time for started to laugh. I told her I didn't and crawled off to sleep in the bath. And when I awoke, I was alone, whispered as flown. So I lit a fire. Isn't it good? as the years have gone by, the stories about the coincidences, the things about the Beatles that were over and above what anyone could have planned. You know, that when they auditioned for EMI, they had been rejected by 22 labels. And Brian Epstein didn't want to tell them that this was like their last shot. He said he was worried that John Lennon would go in with a chip on his shoulder. So he didn't say this is your last shot, but so John did go in with a chip on his shoulder anyway, and said to George Martin, "So what have you done? You know, why should we sign with you? What have you produced?" And he goes, "Well, I haven't done a ton musically, but I did produce the Goon Show records, which were the equivalent of Monty Python, you know, great comedy records with little snippets of music." And John said, "You're our producer." You know, that's how it goes. Now, just one quick word, and then I'm going to go do some piano playing while Alan entertains you with his voice. Kathy and Rich are here. Good to see you. Thank you, Luann. You're giving us a sitting ovation right there. Larry Dunning, my cousin, is here. Good to see you, bro. And he's got a gang with him. That's all good. When John and George went to a music store in England to get new guitars, they ordered Gibson ES 175s, which were electric guitars, cutaway with F-holes, sunburst, and they waited months and months and months to get them. And when they finally got them, they got the wrong guitars. They got these, which were acoustic electric. They had volume controls on them. They were J120s, they were called. This guitar is a Santa Cruz. It's based on that guitar. So even things like that happened, their whole sound would have been different if they had these electric guitars instead of these guitars that were largely acoustic. You know, so the Beatles had many records that were rocking songs. Bill Kelly's here. Grover Kimball. Hey, dude. Good to see you. We used to see Grover at O'Connor's in Watchung, and what an entertainer. Always.
The mythological Grover Kimball. Yes.
Yes.
He exists.
He does exist. He's here in the chat room. Great to see you, Grove. And Grove, if you want, write down a gig in the chat room. Invite people to a gig, as long as it's not tonight.
So this past year, I got to play like 5 months in Europe, and I got to play the very first place the Beatles played in Germany. It was a tiny little club called the Indra Club, INDRA, and it was just a tiny little place. It's sort of like in New York City, like the Cafe Wha, these tiny little holes in the walls that you start out in. And the Beatles moved from there up to the Kaiser Keller, up to the Top 10, up to the Star Club. They just kept rising up into bigger clubs. But it's almost like, I just wondered, I never got a real sense of how much they played in Germany versus how much they played in England leading up to the big Ed Sullivan debut. I know they played an awful lot in Germany. And so I miss it. They're starting up again. I've left the show. I did it willingly.
You left the show willingly.
I did. I left the show, and I just want to be with family, and so I missed it already. They're already gathering in Germany for the next tour, and it breaks my heart that I won't be there. But I wish them well.
If we were playing at a club tonight, or a party or whatever, on New Year's Eve at 8 o'clock, we would normally play some mellow things, work our way into it. Alan has a great repertoire of that kind of material, and so I thought tonight we would do some of it, including this great song written by a guy in Woodstock, Tim Moore, and it became a big hit for Art Garfunkel. And see if you remember it. It's a little obscure. It's called Second Avenue.
since we can no longer make it, girl. I found a new place to live my life. It's really no place at all, just a hole in the wall, you see. It's cold and dusty, but I let it be. Living here without you. Second Avenue. Since our stars took different paths, I guess I won't be shaving in your looking glass. Guess my own friendly grin must have started to do somehow. I certainly don't need it now. Still I'll keep smiling through Second Avenue. I can still see you standing there on the third floor landing. The day you visited, we hardly said a word. Outside it was raining. You said you couldn't be staying. You went back to your flowers and your bird. Since we can no longer see the light the way we did when we kissed that night, then all the things that we felt must eventually melt and fade, like the frost on my window pane, where I wrote I am you. Second Avenue.
How about, let's try this one. Elton John just retired, apparently. He used to play this at O'Connor's.
Your song?
Yeah.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. Not one of those who can easily hide. I ain't got much money, boy, if I did buy a big house where we both could live. If I were a sculptor, but then again, no, you're a man who makes persons in the travel show. No, it's not much, but it's the best I can do. My gift is my song, and this one's for you. And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is when you're in the world. I sat on the bus and picked up the poem with you. All the verses are the sweetest eyes I've ever seen. And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down the words how wonderful life is when you're in the world. I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down the words how wonderful life is when you're in the
Yeah, baby.
I don't think I've done that song for like 30 years.
There you go. We pulled
It's
it
just,
out of the
oof.
kitchen. I'm gonna get a guest vocalist. Come on out, Eli. Come on
Oh, we got another guest star coming.
out.
One of the Murgot family
We've got
singers.
the new 16.9 Eli Murgot, owner of a new, a used Subaru. That was his Christmas gift. So you'll see him on the roads.
True.
You're a lot safer in a used Subaru than you are in a brand new Dodge Neon.
I have to tune up a little bit. What did we do? We did Thank You Girl.
Not fully in frame.
I can't fix it, so just move a little closer. And we're going to do a great classic.
my mom's giving me a stop.
There's Marcia talking to Larry. I don't mind it. I want you all to interact in the chat room. Shay is here. Good to see you, Shay. Thanks for checking in with us. God bless you. And Bro D, as I call him, Bro D. Joanne is here.
Okay.
Roya is here. Glad to see you, Roya.
I think that's pretty good, yeah.
Grover Kemble, he's still alive. He is still alive. And we'll play some songs that you can sing along with that Alan has done in various Beatles shows. And you'll have, this one has Eli Murgot singing on it. Let's try it. What chord does it start on?
Start on an A.
Starts on an A. Okay, count it off and do it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, sorry.
I'll always be in love with you, and all I gotta do is thank you, girl,
baby.
Thank you, Eli.
Even
All
the
right.
even the teenage classics. Carol's here. Thanks for the dinner last night. Youngin. That's what I call Carol. She called me Nyoldens. And one time, Sue McKenzie, my cousin, was on the phone with her, and she said, "Did you just call him Moldy Dumplings?" And so that became my nickname for a while. Henry is here, and Jim and Paula just gave us a welcome. Henry just gave us a sitting ovation for that. Now, I'm naturally, in the heat of the moment, having tuning issues tonight. We're getting it together. In the last tour, Alan, of Europe that you did over the summer in Germany and Austria, did anything happen unusual? Anything, or was it pretty smooth sailing?
Well, no, we had 6 cases of COVID. That was a super inconvenience. You know, it was like over there you had to. There's rules. It's just Germany, and rules all over the place. And that. So I had to wake up every morning and stick the little swab up my nose. It was the first thing. Before I even made it to the bathroom or get a drink of water, nothing. I had to put the thing right up my nose, and then I had to take a picture of the results of the daily test and send it to the Central Wheel on Oral on WhatsApp. And so everybody would wait for everybody to put the picture of the negative test. Then we know if we have a show. Otherwise, we don't have a show, and people don't make money, and they get upset. And so that was everything. And so we were the only show that played every show that was on our schedule. There were the company who books us books like 3 or 4 other shows, and they all went down with COVID. So they were all very happy with us. And so there was one day where we lost both Ringo and John. If you can, like the other times, it was like a wardrobe person, a sound man, some other crew member. But one time we were down a Ringo and a John. And so I'm on the phone. I'm saying, this is impossible. How are we going to do a show? And the German producer says, Alan, you have so much experience. I know you'll be able to get the show up and going. I said, wow. So we had a meeting. We realized that one of the actors, there's 3 actors in the show, one of the actors played guitar and sang. And we put a guitar in his hand, dressed him up like John Lennon, and said, you're doing John Lennon. We found a local drummer who happened to be a genius and knew all the Beatles songs and knew how to work the electronics. He had some other things he had to do as well. So it was a very lucky thing. But then we realized we lost an actor, and we have to make a costume change during the spot where he's supposed to be acting, but now he can't. So we're sitting in a circle thinking, what are we going to do? And because I'm an old man, and I remember back to the days of Soupy Sales, I said to everyone sitting in the circle, the cast and crew, I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do what Soupy Sales used to do. He'd say, kids, somebody's knocking on the door. And he'd go back, and it would be like a Black Tooth or White Fang or something. Just the arm. And just the arm would come through and have a conversation with as if you go, So I said, that's what we're going to do. So we actually did. We put a script behind the curtain the audience couldn't see, and we asked the guy who tunes the guitar, Tommy Nowak. He comes, he said, Tommy, you got to read that script, and you got to stick your arm out to shake, to shake the hands of Burt Canford, the Beatles manager. And then you got to hand him a record. So he did the whole scene behind the curtain, and it saved the show. Without that, we would have had to cancel the whole show. So Soupy Sales saved the Beatle tour.
There you go. And later, of course, he could say, did you see that arm that stuck out? That was my arm.
Yeah, he did it for like 2 more shows as well, so it was great.
Eli, here's your note. Just walk away. You got it?
I hope
Yeah.
so.
No, no, away. We're going to do a classic. Alan and I pride ourselves on doing some of the lesser performed songs. We don't just do Beatles. We do the Left Bank, too. And we were big, big fans of the Left. We were the big fans.
You got it.
They were from New York. They were teenagers. Their father produced them. And we've been doing this song for years, loving it. We dedicate it to you tonight. And it goes like this. 2, 3, 4.
And when I see the sign that points one way, the lights we used to pass by every day.
Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. Now the sidewalks on my block are not the same. You're not to blame. Got it?
From deep inside the tears that are forced to cry, from deep inside the pain that I chose to hide.
Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. The empty sidewalks on my block are not the same. You're not to blame. Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. Now as the rain beats down upon my weary eyes, for me it cries.
Your name and mine inside a heart upon a wall still finds a way to haunt me. Oh, we're so small.
Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. The empty sidewalks on my block are not the same. You're not to blame. Thanks. Thank you, Eli.
No problem.
We're going to get your mom in here to sing a harmony with us. Eli has note. Eli has note, Jamie says. Yeah, it's that note. It's that harmony note. He's also learning how to play drums, so Jamie, we'll give him a drum lesson one of these days. Boy, this is vexing. This is just killing me. Yeah, we have a vote for an appearance by Annie here on our stage tonight. Alan played a gig last year at the Sellersville Theater, and we brought Eli and his friend Sam, and we met up with Ted Lyons that night, who was sitting in the row ahead of us, the DJ, the radio personality, I should say. And at the end of that show, dude, they were just dancing in the aisles. Everybody was on their feet. That was a high energy show. You don't mind me giving away your age. I said to Ted Lyons, I said, that's not what we thought 69 was going to be like when we were kids. You were completely engaged in that performance. A lot of high energy rock singing that night, and you nailed it all. And it was very exciting show. What was the name of that band again?
It was Beatlemania Now.
Beatlemania Now,
And that was we had a last minute replacement due to COVID on that show as well, and we happened to find a superstar who was available. He's one of the guys who does like the show that was based in London called Let It Be, performing in London's equivalent to Broadway. Let It Be is a high-end Beatles show.
Yeah.
Our dear friend John Corba performs in Let It Be.
Oh, okay.
As a keyboard player. So Corba played background keyboards on Let It Be on Broadway as well as Rain on Broadway. So he's got
Rain was the band I was trying to remember the other day. That's one of the best known, and they're the ones you see at the PBS Begathons. You filled in for the Paul McCartney for 2 weeks on Broadway.
I got to play on Broadway with John Corba, so that was fun. It's the only time we ever played on Broadway together, even though both of us had played a lot of shows on Broadway.
Now, in memory of your brother Brian, this was his favorite song, and I told people we're going to do it. Thank you, Bob Cole, for weighing in.
Which one are you going to do?
We're going to do Red Rubber Ball.
Oh, okay, good.
And so, somebody said when I mentioned that this past week, somebody said, "Oh, that song has a great story to it," and the Circle were a duo of two guys from Lafayette College. They had a frat band, and they were called the Corsairs, as I believe. Mm-hmm. And they played a lot of frat parties, just played standard rock and roll. Don Daneman was one of them, and I forget the other guy's name. And then they were playing on Labor Day down in Atlantic City. I believe, yeah, it was Atlantic City. And the Beatles' American Lawyer was strolling down the boardwalk and heard them and said, here's my card. I'd like to call you, and we'd like to maybe do something with you. And Don Daneman said, yeah, sure. I've heard that a million times. And the next thing he knows, he finds himself sitting in a limousine with Brian Epstein on the streets of New York. And we got to get a new name for you. You're not going to be the Corsairs. So they asked John Lennon to name them, and he's the one who came up with the Circle. And then another bit of great good fortune for them. And a lot of times you hear this kind of story. Don Daneman said he heard the song Red Rubber Ball by Paul Simon and totally was unimpressed. And he said, nah, that's not a hit, But he says, I'll go along with it if you want. And so it stands as a classic to this day. But yes, it's a Paul Simon song. And it goes like this.
I should have known you'd bid me farewell. There's a lesson to be learned from this, and I've learned it very well. Now I know you're not the only starfish in the sea. If I never hear your name again, it's all the same to me. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. You never cared for secrets I confide. To you I'm just an ornament, something for your pride. Always running, never caring, that's the life you live. Stolen minutes of your time were all you had to give. And I think it's gonna
The stories in the past, there's nothing to recall. I've got my life to live, and I don't need you at all. The roller coaster ride we took is nearly at an end. I bought my ticket with my tears, that's all I'm gonna spend. And I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Oh, I think it's gonna be alright. Yeah, the worst is over now. The morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball. Great song. Don Daneman has a long interview on YouTube about it, and I find it interesting. Probably a lot of people wouldn't want to sit through this whole 45-minute interview, but he said he thinks he made a mistake at the end in that last thing. He says there's a mistake on the guitar, and I've listened for it, and I don't hear anything.
If you play it loud enough, it's an improvement. So I look at it. It's an interesting story about the Circle and the Beatles.
Yeah.
And that it's a tale of two bands. The exact same thing happened to them. The Beatles management went to them and said, listen, I don't have a lot of confidence in your writing, so they said to the Beatles, you guys should record this song. And they wanted them to record How Do You Do What You Do to Me, which is, would have been a hit song, but the Beatles said, no, we're not going to do that. We just, that's not what we want to do. We want to do our own material. And the Beatles said no to management and went on to have the greatest career ever. The Circle, on the other hand, after their first two records, they were approached by management and said, listen, here's a song I think you guys should record. And it's da-da-da-da-da-da, feeling groovy.
Oh,
and the Circle said, no, we don't want to do that pop stuff. That's not the direction for. And the Circle were never heard from again. So
yeah,
so it's interesting.
Right, there are lots of stories like that. Look, I'm trying to do something weird here. I'll do my best to be heard. I'm going to sing one of the verses of this great Jimmy Webb song. And where did the stool go now?
Where's the stool now, Susie? Isn't that one of his songs?
Yeah.
We lost the stool. Here we go.
Yeah, Eli sat down so that he could get in the frame. He's tall. What's my standard line about that?
Anyhow, this was my Christmas present last year. This year, my daughter got a ukulele bass for Christmas, so she was very excited about that.
And speaking of Beatlemania and the groups that perform the Beatles music, we have Rich Morello in the house. Rich, Happy New Year to you. Good
Richie.
to see you. And Alan,
I got to tell Richie, while Richie's
when's the
listening.
next time you guys are playing together?
Richie, we're playing together, I believe, the 21st of January, we're playing somewhere. And I don't remember where. Richie, you can remind us. I haven't got my calendar with me. Anyway, I just got to tell you this, that Richie will back me up on this. Every Beatle band, everywhere, at some point, does this same thing. They do it like a lot of times. They go to have a sound check, and they realize that during the sound check, it's very possible that some of the crowd that's coming in can actually hear the sound check a little bit. So we're a little worried about that. So all the Beatle bands then decide to do a song that's not in the show for the sound check, just so the audience doesn't get to hear the song too soon, you know. And it's always one of the, like the one we just did reminded me of that. Well, Thank You Girl. Every Beatle band does Thank You Girl, or they do, some of the other great songs. He goes, Hold Me Tight's the one I like to do. Hold me tight, tell me I'm the only. So the thing is, what happens all the time is we do it in sound check, and then we look at each other and go, hey, wow, that sounded really good. We've got to work Thank You Girl into the show. And then the exact same thing happens to every Beatle band everywhere. They look at the song list and they realize to do Thank You Girl, they have to get rid of like a #1 song.
You can't get rid of.
Well, we can do it instead of Hard Day's Night, no. Do it instead of I Feel Fine, no. And we just go, it goes like that, and then we go, forget it. Every band does that 100 times in their career, never does Thank You Girl.
So we got to do it tonight. We're happy to do it.
Yeah, now I
And
get to
last night, we heard a song on Sirius Radio with Jeremy Clyde of Chad and Jeremy. And I told the gathered multitude in the car proudly that the last time I saw Jeremy, I said, you probably don't remember me. I saw him at the Sellersville Theater, and he said, he goes, I remember you. I play your Christmas album every year. So that was nice to hear from him. And he played a song last night. It was Tell Me Why. There's a song that doesn't get any Beatles shows. Tell Me Why. Great song.
Great bass line, great harmonies. That's real distinctive.
And didn't you guys in Bittersweet, which morphed into Bailey and the Boys, the well-known country group that had 5 top 10 singles? Yes, Alan went down and boldly was a pizza delivery boy for a year while he starved to waiting to get a
That's it.
record deal.
That's the only job I've ever done other than play guitar and sing was pizza deliverer in Nashville.
And you were probably good at it. So we're both, Alan and I are both lifelong Jimmy Webb fans, love him to death, and this might be the most beloved Jimmy Webb song of all time. And Al, you're going to sing the first
Okay.
verse. Lineman. There it is.
I am a lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wire, I can hear you through the wine in the Wichita lineman, still on the line.
I know I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. And if it snows, that stretch down south won't ever stand the strain, no. And I need you more than want you, baby. And I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman, yeah, is still on the line, yeah.
And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. In the Wichita lineman, still on the
Well, relax, sit back, take a sip of champagne or whatever libation you're having. We're going to do another of one of those first set songs that we used to play in the various watering holes of Central Jersey, including O'Connor's on Mountain Boulevard in Watchung. How many gigs did we do there? That was our cavern club, so to speak. And we are forever in debt to Jack O'Connor for having the foresight to outfit that restaurant with a Yamaha Baby Grand piano, great piano, and abused over the years, and took a beating and still came back for more. You know, the jazz players spilled beers in that piano, etc. And the rock players pounded it with their hands and feet. And here's a great Leon Russell song that we used to do there in the first set, as Grover Kemble remembers very well, those first set mellow moments. So here you go, Al.
I've seen a lot of places in my life and time, sung a lot of songs, I made some bad rhymes, I've acted out my life in stages, 10,000 people watching, but alone now and I'm singing this song for you. I know your image of me is what I hope to be. I treated you unkindly, but darling, can't you see? There's no one more important to me. Darling, can't you see through me? We're alone and I'm singing this song for you. You taught me precious secrets, the truth withholding nothing. Came out front when I was hiding. Now I'm so much better, and my words won't come together. Listen to the melody, 'cause my love is in there hiding. I love you in a place where there's no space and time. I love you for my life, you are a friend of mine. When my life is over, you can say we were together. We were alone and I was singing this song for you. Taught me precious secrets, the truth withholding nothing. You came out front when I was hiding. Now I'm so much better, if my words won't come together. Listen to the melody, 'cause my love is in there hiding. I love you in a place where there's no space and time. I love you for my life, you are a friend of mine. And when my life is over, you can say we were together. I was singing this song.
Yeah, baby. Whew. Now, you have got to double on piano when you're doing Beatles shows. And when I saw you at the Sellersville Theater, when we saw you, I had a observation there that you nailed it. You had some,
Yeah, the observation, I hadn't figured out what the Black Keys do yet.
so you stayed away from those. Stay away from those Black Keys. And so, hey, last night, Jeremy Clyde got me thinking about this song. This is another one, and there's no bad Beatles songs. There's no bad Beatles records. Not to go negative, but there's only one. There's only one, and it's "I Want to Tell You," which is the dopiest lyric, the worst track, the worst harmonies. And this piano part that's like a dentist drill,
Yeah.
and so that one's, and I've said that, and even luminaries as trustworthy and as accomplished as Ed Stasium he's called me crazy for not liking that song. He said no, that's a great album cut, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
It's interesting. George's early works in the Beatles remind me of the folk club in high school, because when all these young folk singers are teenagers, the first thing that occurs to them to write is it's a way of hiding. They just want to write something angry. Well, you're dunk, and I said this to you, you didn't understand, and they write these angry little songs. And George's early songs are sort of like that. I've got a word or two to say about the things that you do. You're telling all of it. And I'm going, that's folk club.
Yeah.
But George eventually wrote, "Here Comes the Sun," and something in the way she was.
Yes.
He eventually
The sun came through.
He was free of all his teen angst, and
The sun broke through. Yeah, "Don't Bother Me" was one of the first songs. Don't bother me,
I
and
played
me
that.
alone.
I played that with Richie the other night. It's a great song.
Yeah. Thank you, Roya, and Rob Trout of Rob Trout and the Flounders, and is in the house. And if there's a better name of a group anywhere, I sure have never heard it. Rob Trout and the Flounders, and they're playing around. Rob, go ahead, tell us your gig if you want. I think you're playing January 7th. I'm playing January 7th. I'm playing down at the Jewish Community Center, which is also the synagogue in Flemington, and playing next Saturday night. So we'd love to have you and see you. I'll be telling stories, and I'll be there live, not just virtual live in the kitchen here. Here's a song Alan and I used to do and always enjoyed it. I'm springing it on him. We haven't done it in years. Another one we haven't done in years.
I asked you not to spring anything on me. I think that was part of our.
You don't
I think you
ask
signed
that.
something to that effect that you wouldn't spring anything on me.
Folks, don't get us wrong. He loves it. He the more challenging, if I could say, let's do the theme song to Speed Racer, and
no.
he'd be on board.
you
But
got?
this one is this. It goes like this off of Beatles 6.
When I'm walking beside her, people tell me I'm lucky. Yes, I know I'm a lucky guy. I remember the first time I was lonely without her. Can't stop thinking about her now. Every little thing she does for me, yeah. And you know the thing she does for me. Ooh. When I'm with her, I'm happy, just to know that she loves me. Yes, I know that she loves me now. There is one thing I'm sure of, I will love her forever, for I know love will never die.
Yep.
Now, that was on a compilation in America called Beatles 6. And just a quick reminder from your sponsor here, we do suggest a little minimum contribution tonight, the minimum being $10. The links are there. Annie posted a Venmo link, I think, but PayPal is there. We'd appreciate it. And the Beatles albums, as some of you know, were culled from the English versions of the albums, which had more songs. Now, when I was in 6th, 7th grade, I knew nothing about this until my first girlfriend moved in next door, the lovely Sally Doors. Loved her, became lifelong friends with her brother Brad, and what a great encouragement he's been over the years. And she and the Doors family moved here from England, where their father had been stationed for business for a couple of years. So they came over, and I went over to their house, and Sally and I were hanging around, and she puts on a Beatles album that I had never seen and blew my mind. I was like, your Beatles albums have more songs than ours do. She had 14 songs, 7 aside, and I'll never forget, it was called Beatles for Sale. And Beatles for Sale over here was chopped up into 2 albums, Beatles 6 and Beatles 65. And that's where that song, Every Little Thing, came from. And here's the payoff, though, that because of the way a record works and the grooves being, closer together or farther apart, our albums sounded way better. They were way louder. The English albums sounded weak in comparison because they were trying to shove too many songs on a side. This is the early, training that the Beatles had in writing. And in one of the first Beatles books, The Beatles, it was called, by Hunter Davies. And he sat in on their writing session, a couple of writing sessions, and he said they would say the last 4 songs of any album were just pure direct to them. They just slogged through them. They were like, quick, get another song. One of those songs was What You're Doing, which I happen to love. Look what you're doing. We listened to it last night.
It's hard. One of the hard things about doing a Beatles show is that when they break out the 12-string guitar, you don't like to keep changing guitars from song. So when you get a 12-string, you want to do 8 Days a Week. You want to do If I Fell. But all the 12-string songs were like John Lennon songs. And so the only one that Paul sang really was What You Doing. So out of frustration of having to not be able to sing a song during the 12-string, I said, let's learn that song. So we started doing What You Doing. It was a difficult song.
I love it.
Difficult to sing, really high.
Yeah,
but it was
I
fun.
love it. We have a request, and I kind of tantalized the gang this week by saying, Gary Pratt's here, by the way. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Gar.
Good to see you. Star of stage and screen, Gary Pratt. He was in the movie Under the Rainbow. Jenny's here. Hi, Jenny. Happy New Year. Love to you and Steve. Would you indulge us, Alan, and do the song you've done a zillion times, but yesterday, and we'll do it tonight on the piano. Is that all right?
Okay.
So I've been playing it on the
I
piano.
remember this one.
Yeah, really. Jump in there when you're ready.
Here's one. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly
yesterday. Love was such an easy game to play, and I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe yesterday. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say, and I said something wrong. Now I long for yesterday. Yesterday, love was such an easy game to play, and I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
Beautifully done. Thank you. It's probably a little slower than you
Yeah.
know it, but I like
okay.
I like to eke out all of the.
Forces me to take a deep breath.
Yeah. It's about breathing, isn't it?
That's
Eric Clapton said that once. Eric Clapton is an underrated vocalist, in my opinion, for all of his accolades that he's got in other areas. And he said, I couldn't figure out how to sing until I studied Stevie Wonder, and I copied how he was breathing, and I thought, oh, how interesting. Here's a song I might sing of the Beatles, and you were saying how there was this arc of their. This is going to be a challenge to you on bass, but I bet you're up for it. I'm going to do it in F sharp minor, which is While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And you could do it in your sleep, right?
no.
Would you prefer I do it in G minor? Would that be
No.
easier? You can do it? Okay.
I will figure it out.
Yeah, good. And if not, just lay out.
I
That's
know
all
all the notes. I know A, I know B, all the notes. I know them.
I have paid the estate of George Harrison in the hundreds of dollars for recording this song on classical guitar. I have a tribute album to George on Spotify and iTunes, and it's called Here Comes the Sun, which you mentioned earlier. And so there's a, famous story that everybody who's a music fan knows now, that Eric Clapton played electric guitar on this. And that Les Paul was owned originally by John Sebastian, who then sold it to Rick Derringer. And Rick Derringer decided it was a gold top Les Paul, not a sunburst. And he said, I'm going to get it refinished. So when he was on tour with the McCoys, Hang On Sloopy, he passed by the Gibson factory out in Michigan, and he dropped it off and asked him to refinish it in like candy apple red, and Lucille Ball's red hair is what gave George the idea to call that guitar Lucy. So that guitar was called Lucy. And Rick Derringer said it never played right after that. I never liked the guitar again after I got it messed up at the factory and they redid the neck, and I wanted to get rid of it, so he sold it to George Harrison, who loaned it to Eric Clapton. And then that guitar was stolen in this long and winding road, and George put out a missing guitar bulletin and said, I'll pay a reward for that guitar, no questions asked, and the guy returned it. So George probably paid a thief a reward to return. The guy said, "Oh yeah, I bought it off somebody on the street or something, you know."
Yeah.
Who's out there? Pat is here. Nice to see you, Pat. And Jamie's hanging out with us tonight. Jamie and I are recording together. Very exciting. Paul is laughing at something, probably something dumb that we said. So let's do it.
See the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping. Still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know why nobody told you how to unfold your love. I don't know how someone controlled you. They bought and sold you.
Jump in there, Al.
I look at the world and I notice it's turning. Still my guitar gently weeps. With every mistake we must surely be learning. Still my guitar gently
Here we go. Wow, we sat up and took notice when that came out on that album. And we'll do a couple of more songs for you tonight. It's good to have you, good to be with you, good to reminisce. And that White Album, Ted Lyons and I and a couple other people, maybe Ed Stasium, who was the producer of the Ramones and Talking Heads and Living Color. And we were reminiscing about Gregory's, which was outside of your realm of travel, Alan. And Annie, if you're listening, come on in. We're going to ask Annie to sing a couple of songs with us.
I knew a Gregory's. I know.
Oh, you know the music store Gregory's in Plainfield?
And
Yeah.
Rondo's down on 22.
You know who the guitar teacher was at Gregory's?
Who's that?
Don Ciccone
Really?
of the Critters.
Am I supposed to come in?
Ted Lyons took lessons from him. Pull up a seat.
There's a wooden spoon on the floor. Is this supposed to be
Just put it in the.
for one of you guys?
It's,
Yeah,
it's for acoustic purposes, so you
Okay.
turn it a
Yeah.
certain way.
yeah. And so that particular time, there was a guy, we used to call him the quiet man. He never said a word. He was the salesman in the record department. And I'll never forget, I had called so many times in advance of the White Album coming out that when I finally came down to get it, he was just standing there holding it and handed it to me. He knew I was on my way, and he just goes, here, you know. So I also remember going down there in 1970, and I saw an album, never heard of the group, never heard of them. I liked the cover, had a nice cover, and it was an album just called Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And I said, you know, I'll take a chance on this. You know, how bad can it be?
You didn't know any of the people involved?
Didn't know any. Well, I knew the people a little bit, but I just had never heard that they made a group. And I was like, how bad can this be? You know. And then I think the opening cut of that album is Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. I think.
No, there's Marrakesh.
Is it okay? But when you get to Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, you're blown away at that point. So we'll do a song together with Annie, and this is something that Annie and Jenny and I have done together many times. I'm gonna spring the key of B on you, Alan. Alan just handled F sharp like a champ. So let's do this Paul Simon song. We love Paul Simon. We did one song of his tonight already, and we're getting down near the end. It's been fun. We'll do a couple more songs for you here. Another one that Annie sings on after this. I'm sitting in a railway station, got a ticket for my destination. On a tour of one night stands, my suitcase and guitar in hand. Every stop is neatly planned for a bowling and a one-man band. Homeward bound, I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping. Home, where my music's playing. Home, where my love lies waiting silently for me. You want to sing this next verse? No?
I don't know it.
Every day's an endless stream of cigarettes and magazines.
Take it, Tommy. No.
Each town looks the same to me, the movies and the factories. And every stranger's face I see reminds me that I long to be homeward bound. I sure wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping. Home, where my music's playing. Home, where my love lies waiting silently for me. Tonight I'll sing my songs again. I'll play the game and pretend. My words come back to me in shades of mediocrity, like emptiness in harmony. I need someone to comfort me. Homeward bound, I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping. Home, where my love lies waiting. Home, where my love lies waiting silently for me. Silently for me. Nice. And Annie adding the Jamie Flynn harmony there. We'll do two more maybe tonight, and then say good evening. It's been an absolute blast to have Alan here. Thanks, Al, for coming in the fog and the mist. And
Anytime.
thanks. Who's that? Cornelia is here. Hello. If I missed you, my apologies. It's great to see you all. There's my little sister.
Happy New Year, everybody.
As far as my recollection goes and my knowledge of pop music history, this was the very first Bee Gees single, and still great. It's like a soul song, and some of the great soul singers have recorded it, and it goes like this. I think I sing the first.
Yep.
There's a light. There's a certain kind of light, yeah, that's never shone on me. I want my life to be with you. There's a way, everybody say, to do each and every little thing, yeah. What good does it bring if I ain't got you? If I ain't got you, baby. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to love somebody, to love somebody the way I love you.
In my brain, I see your face again. And I know you're a friend of mine. You ain't got to be so blind, 'cause I'm a man so blind. I'm a man. Can't you see what I am? And I live and breathe for you. But what good does it do if I ain't got you? Ain't got you, baby.
You don't know what it's like.
Don't know what it's like.
You don't know what it's like
To love somebody, to love somebody the way I love you. No, 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 no.
You don't know what it's like. You don't know. You don't know what it's like
To love somebody, to love somebody the way I love you.
joy, a pleasure to do that with you. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. I bet Jamie was singing that at home in his living room with us. Glad to play for you, and we'll see you again sometime. Alan, are you brave enough to try the We Five song?
Sure.
Annie'll help out. And this is our favorite obscurity. Although it's not that obscure, it was a big hit, but it's a one-hit wonder. I'd say it's my favorite one-hit wonder of all time. By the We Five, they were a band from San Francisco area. And the writer of this song just passed away this week, Ian Tyson. This was written by Ian and Sylvia, and they had a folk version of it.
He was a Canadian?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. And he also wrote Four Strong Winds, which Neil Young turned into a classic record. And I had some interaction once with him years ago. I emailed him and he emailed me back. He was a nice guy. And we tossed it around a while. And he and his wife certainly created an all-time classic. So good night to you all. Happy New Year. God bless you. And it goes like this.
When I woke up this morning, you were on my mind, and you were on my mind. I got troubles, whoa, whoa. I got worries, whoa, whoa. I got wounds to bind. So I went to the corner my face, and just to ease my pain. I got trouble, whoa, whoa. I got worry, whoa, whoa. I came home again. When I woke up this morning, you were on my mind. I got worries, whoa, whoa. I got wounds to bind, and I got a feeling down in my shoes, and way down in my shoes. I got a rebel, whoa, whoa. I got a move, whoa, whoa. I got a up this morning, you were on my mind. Said you were on my mind. I got troubles, whoa, whoa. I got worries, whoa, whoa. I got books to burn.
Happy New Year to you all.
Thanks for listening.
God bless you. Have a great night. All right.